with you guys today. The WNBA has elected to kick the can down the road. They have officially offered the players a 30-day extension on the current CBA deal. The only question remaining, will the players accept? Will the players say, you know what? We're good here. Why bother? Or will the players say, you know what? Maybe they will give us what we want. Maybe we don't have to.
So, the WNBA commissioner, Cathy Engelbert, thought a quick 30-day extension would buy them some time to talk things out, right? But boy, was she mistaken. The players? They're totally powered up now, thanks to all these cool new leagues popping up. They weren't just pushing back, they were on a whole different playing field. Her extension idea, it was dead before it even landed. She wanted a calm solution, but a player revolt totally crushed that vision, and the league front office really didn't see it coming. That silence after the offer was brutal, just showing that the old way of doing things is totally over. A massive change is already happening.
An extension to the players. Will the players accept it? I don't believe these players are going to accept it. We're going to get into it and break it down. Welcome to Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the channel, hit that bell notification, hype the video. Let's go. Let's take off. So we have Alexa Philippou announcing here, breaking: the WNBA has offered players a 30-day extension to continue negotiations for a new CBA, sources told ESPN. Time is ticking for a resolution, one way or another, with Friday's deadline rapidly.
And so, the WNBA officially put out this 30-day extension, hoping to avoid a full-blown crisis, with a deadline fast approaching on Friday. But listen, the players quickly made it clear they weren't having it. Sources told us the union might think about it, but only if the right circumstances were there. And they stressed, super emphatically, that those circumstances just weren't happening. This wasn't some little negotiating move, you know? It was a massive signal that they saw no point in just delaying things unless some real, big concessions were actually on the table. Basically, the league's first offer was just shut down cold, showing how far apart everyone really was. It totally exposed the cracks in Engelbert's plan from day one.
Sources told ESPN, time is ticking for a resolution one way or another, with Friday's deadline rapidly approaching. Very, very interesting. We saw that they weren't going to reach an agreement by Friday, earlier today, reported by Underdog Sports and many others. But just because they didn't reach an agreement doesn't necessarily mean that an extension wouldn't be coming sometime along the road. And it is officially here. Will the players accept? A source said the players may be willing to consider an extension, quote.
Then things just blew up, turning into this big public argument with both sides slinging accusations. Aaron Drake, who's a senior advisor for the Players Association, said that even with all the hard work the players put in, they just weren't feeling the same urgency from the league. It's like they were saying the WNBA was totally dragging its feet, not really serious about getting a deal done. This completely went against the league's talk about wanting a quick solution. It really showed a huge gap in effort in what each side actually cared about. You could tell that any chance for a good faith extension was just falling apart quickly. It was poisoned by everyone not trusting each other and nobody being on the same page for urgency.
Announcing here, breaking: the WNBA has offered players a 30-day extension to continue negotiations for a new CBA, sources told ESPN. Time is ticking for a resolution, one way or another, with Friday's deadline rapidly approaching. Now, this does not mean that there's going to be a new deal. This does not mean the players will even agree to this. I believe the WNBA players are going to want to hold the league's feet to fire on this and not sign a deal. Let's take a look at what else she posted here, where
But the WNBA shot back, and they shot back hard. They basically accused the players of trying to mislead everyone. A spokesperson for the league told the union to stop spreading public misinformation and instead, actually sit down and have constructive engagement at the table. This wasn't just them disagreeing with the players. They straight up said the players were messing with public opinion, even pointing out how Nafisa Collier kept bringing up Caitlin Clark's name all the time as a tactic. This whole thing just exploded, showing that the negotiations weren't just stuck, they were totally broken. It turned into full-on public mudslinging. With that kind of hostile vibe, Engelbert's extension idea was practically impossible.
A source said the players may be willing to consider an extension, quote, under the right circumstances, but they feel, quote, those circumstances do not yet exist. What are those circumstances? All right, we're willing to an extension, but does that mean that you're going to give us A, B, and we're just extending to iron out C? Does that mean you're going to give us A and C and we're extending to iron out B? What is the crux of them saying, yes, we'll agree to the extension, or no, we won't?
So here's another big issue that came out. The WNBA actually said they sent over a proposal way back on October 1st. But get this, the players didn't respond until weeks later on a Monday. The league saw this as a deliberate delay, totally undermining their honest attempts to negotiate. It wasn't just a slow email. You know? Both sides started seeing it as this strategic, almost childish game. Like, oh, you made me wait 15 days? Fine, I'll make you wait 17. This whole tit-for-tat thing completely blew up any hope for a real solution. It just goes to show why a simple extension was never going to work.
Agree to this. I believe the WNBA players are going to want to hold the league's feet to fire on this and not sign a deal. Let's take a look at what else she posted here, where she said a source said the players may be willing to consider, they might be willing to consider it under the right circumstances, but they feel those circumstances do not yet exist. So I showed y'all where they said, L. Duncan said, oh, well, the players and the owners are speaking two different languages. How are you going to come to an agreement?
Meanwhile, the union totally fought back against those claims. They accused the league of trying to just run out the clock, basically stalling for time instead of actually talking. They even said the WNBA was just putting lipstick on a pig. You know, offering the same old recycled proposals that didn't even come close to what players really needed. This just screamed a huge lack of transparency and accountability from the league's leadership. And it made the players even more distrustful. The fight wasn't about small stuff. It was about the whole setup, and if the WNBA's proposals were even sincere, that deep skepticism meant any simple extension of the talks was definitely going to get shut down.
To the 50-50 split? Okay. I see what it is. We're not going to agree to the extension. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. What would be holding the players back from saying, yes, we agreed to an extension. Let's try to iron out this deal so there is no lockout. Right? They'll still be able to negotiate if there's a lockout. However, players won't be able to head to the facility. They won't be able to get treatment. They won't be able to train with the team, with the staff. So there is some things to lose if there is a lockout. Sources: WNBA offers players extension on C.
So, the biggest money fights were all about revenue sharing. The WNBA was pushing for this uncapped revenue sharing thing, saying it was directly tied to how well the league performed. But the players fired back, arguing that proposal wasn't actually connected to any part of the business and totally sold them short. They wanted a true 50-50 split of all the revenue, not just some system where their pay bumps depended on vague stats about the league's performance. This core disagreement on how to value things financially was just too big to overcome. The players felt the WNBA's model kept an unfair system going, and for them, any extension that didn't fix this crucial point was absolutely pointless.
These players, I believe, they think they have all the leverage with Project B and unrivaled. I thoroughly, truly believe that. And before we even get to the ESPN article, let's take a look at a post that was put up here. This is by a dude, Jacob Feldman. Okay. And here's what he had to say. Breaking, I'm told the WNBA has offered players an extension to the CBA, which is set to expire Friday. The Players Association has not accepted the deal and are not planning to.
What's crazy is the players' new strength wasn't just about asking for more money. It was because they suddenly had real options. Look, new ventures like Project B and Unrivaled totally changed the game. These leagues were reportedly offering like 4, even 10 times more money than WNBA salaries. Plus, they were giving out valuable equity stakes. This insane financial power gave players a genuine way out. It meant WNBA negotiations weren't about desperation anymore. It was about them calling the shots. Kathy Engelbert's extension plan, which came from an older time when players really depended on the league, suddenly looked completely behind the times and totally unattractive. And get this, these alternative leagues came with no exclusivity rules. Players could play in Project B or Unrivaled, make huge money, get equity, and still play in the WNBA if a good deal came along. This basically got rid of that old choice between making big bucks overseas or playing in the domestic league. Now players could do it all, play 5-on-5, athletes unlimited, and overseas without the WNBA holding them back. This freedom completely changed how they thought about everything. It gave them unbelievable bargaining power and made Engelbert's exclusivity demands look totally obsolete. On top of that, the players were super clear they wanted a transformational CBA, not just a slightly tweaked version of the old deal. They were fully committed, demanding a revolutionary change that Engelbert's office just didn't seem ready or able to give. Think about it. A 60-day extension back in 2019 led to a new deal pretty quickly. This time, totally different. Just extending talks wasn't enough. The players were pushing for a complete overhaul, showing some really deep-seated unhappiness that a short-term extension just couldn't fix. The whole landscape had completely shifted.
In 2019, before the new deal was signed in January 2020. It would also shelve concerns over a potential work stoppage, either a strike initiated by the players or a lockout initiated by the owners. Alexa, if there's no CBA deal, the players can't strike because it would be a lockout. The players would be locking them out. The players' time to strike was during the season. Give us what we want or we're not playing. That's the time to strike. That time has come and that time has gone. What, they're going to agree to an extension only to stage a lockout? That would be pretty hilarious. And by hilarious, I mean
But here's the thing. There was this demand from the players that everyone felt, even if they didn't always say it out loud. It was super direct. These players don't want to sign anything until Kathy Engelbert is gone. This wasn't just about the contract detail. This was about leadership, pure and simple. The players truly believed getting her out of there was a must-have before any real deal could happen. They saw her as blocking their progress. They wanted a new commissioner, someone who would actually say yes to more pay and let them play in other leagues without all those exclusivity rules. That personal dislike and the complete lack of trust in Engelbert just meant her extension plan was politically dead in the water, no matter how good the money looked.
Set to expire Friday. The Players Association has not accepted the deal and are not planning to accept an extension given where things stand. Though that could change, talks will continue. Player pay structure remains the #1 sticking point. The players are so stalwart in their commitment to having a transformational CBA, and it's our job to get it done, WNBPA legal counsel Aaron Drake told The Athletic in a podcast released earlier today. Drake said that it has been difficult to find the same.
So, Aaron Drake, the senior advisor for the union, just flat out said it. There wasn't going to be a new agreement by Friday. He basically shot down the league's optimistic talk. He really focused on how hard it was to get in sync and find that same sense of urgency from the WNBA. It showed a total breakdown in teamwork. This early admission that things were failing, even before the deadline hit, was a strong message. It shouted out how frustrated the players were and how little faith they had in the league's process. It really highlighted that players felt the WNBA wasn't truly committed to a fair solution. So any extension they suggested would just be pointless, really, just dragging things out.
Has come and that time has gone. What, they're going to agree to an extension only to stage a lockout? That would be pretty hilarious. And by hilarious, I mean laugh at hilarious, not laugh with hilarious. WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert acknowledged during the WNBA Finals that while she was hopeful both sides would meet the October 31st deadline, quote, "We have extended deadlines in the past." A source said the players might be willing to consider an extension under the right circumstances, but they feel those circumstances do not yet exist. WNBPA senior advisor and legal counsel Aaron Drake said recently on the Athletic's No Offseason podcast that there will.
The WNBA kept saying they were negotiating in good faith and with urgency for months, but the players, they consistently said the league was stonewalling them. That's a huge contradiction. This basic disagreement about how the negotiations were even happening just poisoned everything. I mean, if one side thinks the other isn't being real, then an extension just becomes a formality, right? It's just a delay tactic, not a real way to solve anything. This public fight, with both sides throwing bad faith accusations around, created a ton of mistrust. It guaranteed that Engelbert's hopeful extension would be met with serious skepticism and ultimately shot down by the United players.
Out the WNBPA for lying to the public, trying to sway public perception and opinion to rally the troops behind them, i.e., which is why you see Nafisa Collier name dropping Caitlin Clark at every turn and every second she can, all while refusing to sit down and have a meeting with Kathy Engelbert and do negotiations. Like, she literally skipped out on a meeting to go sit down with Kamala Harris and continue to bash the lady in the media, which I'm not a Kathy Engelbert fan. I think she's a bonehead. I think she needs to be fired. I believe all of that. But them refuse.
And the players stood firm. They totally rejected the WNBA's claim that their proposal offered all these significant increases in pay, benefits, and overall experience. From the union's perspective, these were just superficial concessions. They called it lipstick on a pig. Basically, it was all designed to distract from the real problem, a fair revenue split. They wanted a system genuinely tied to every part of the business, implicitly criticizing the league's money model as totally unclear and deliberately undervaluing what players bring to the table. This huge ideological gap meant that no amount of small changes or longer talks under the old rules would ever be enough to make them happy.
The league, let's just to be frank to get this done. It does take two to tango. You guys are demanding and you're not willing to negotiate with your dance partner. You're not willing to dance with your dance partner. That's what's going on here. You want to dance salsa. They don't want to dance salsa. But they'll meet you on the dance floor and they'll dance something else with you. But no, we just want to dance just salsa. That's the only thing I want to dance to. No ballroom, no bachata, none of that. I only want to dance salsa. Okay. The WNBA countered that assertion in a statement provided to ESPN, saying that the league's...
Look, the stakes were super high. If they didn't sign an extension, a work stoppage was definitely on the horizon. We're talking either a player strike or an owner lockout, which is intense. But here's the thing. The players didn't see that as a threat at all. To them, it was their ultimate power play. One analyst even put it simply, if the players say no, that means they don't want to deal with it, and they're going on strike until you give them what they want. This bold take showed just how confident the players were. They truly believed they had the advantage if things shut down. So Engelbert's whole plan, which was designed to avoid this exact situation, got completely blown up because the players were ready to risk everything.
Leverage. And they feel like, hey, look, if y'all not gonna act right, Project B is offering 4 times, 10 times the amount of money. Unrivaled is here. We got equity over there. If that league shut down, Unrivaled just go to 5-on-5. We all getting paid more. There's no exclusivity, so we still could go overseas and get our bread. We still could go do this and do that. We still could do Athletes Unlimited. We can do everything. That's how they looking at this. Let's take a look at the ESPN article on this whole situation. The WNBA has offered players a 30-day extension to continue negotiations, sources told ESPN.
What's more, it was pretty ironic when the WNBA actually admitted they'd extended deadlines before, even during the WNBA finals. Commissioner Engelbert herself had hoped for an October 31st deadline, but also mentioned past extensions at the same time. This accidentally showed everyone the league's old habit of kicking the can down the road, you know? It just made players even more skeptical that anything would be different this time. They saw it as the same old story, not a real move towards some game-changing agreement. This historical context just made it feel like Engelbert's extension was just more of the same, and it really had no appeal at all.
First, and the players didn't respond to it, only responded to it on Monday. Now, if you remember earlier in the season, we were told that the Players Association submitted a proposal and then the WNBA took a while to respond to it. So we're going to be getting into this immature games. Okay, you act like a child with me, therefore I'm going to stoop even lower and act more childish with you. You made me wait 15 days, okay, I'm going to make you wait 17 days. You made me wait 20 days, I'm going to make you wait 28 days. Quote, we urge the Players Association to spend less time disseminating public information and more time joining us in a constructive engagement across the table.
So, the league's big mistake became super clear. They totally underestimated how united the players were and how tempting all those outside opportunities looked. The WNBA tried to control the story by calling out public misinformation, but that just totally backfired. It actually fueled even more distrust. See, the players weren't just looking for better pay anymore. They were fighting for some core, structural changes, especially the freedom to really cash in on their booming popularity outside of the WNBA's exclusive rules. Cathy Engelbert's extension, which was all about keeping the old power structure in place, just completely missed this massive shift. It was a totally useless offer to players who had honestly already moved on.
To get a deal done, but it seems like they're at complete odds at this point, and that won't happen this time. If an extension is not reached, it could open the door for a potential work stoppage, either a strike initiated by the players. Now, if nothing happens, it is a strike. For all the abuse, oh no, it'd be a lockout, not a strike. No, the league is offering an extension because they're trying to get a deal done. If the players say no, that means they don't want to deal with it and they're going on strike until you give them what they want. So, if the players don't sign an extension, the strike is on.
Ultimately, Cathy Engelbert's whole extension plan was just doomed from the start. She completely misjudged the players. She didn't get how ambitious they were or the incredible power they suddenly had. With these new leagues offering tons of financial freedom and players explicitly demanding her removal, why would they even want to just delay things? They weren't just looking for more cash, they wanted a total overhaul of their autonomy and a true partnership, not just some temporary ceasefire. That proposed extension, it was like putting a band-aid on a massive wound, and it got shut down immediately. It really showed that Engelbert's traditional way of thinking was totally out of touch with these rapidly evolving, empowered players. Seriously, the words hit like a brick wall. The WNBA put out a last-ditch 30-day extension for the current CBA, hoping to buy some time, but the players had already made up their minds. This wasn't just a negotiation anymore, it was a fight for the very soul of the league. Their demands were so fundamental that any quick fix, any simple extension, was dead on arrival. The league might have thought a little pause would cool things down, but all that underlying frustration, building up over years of feeling undervalued, meant this olive branch was totally fake. The stage was set for a huge showdown. Player unity was stronger than ever, signaling that any compromise wouldn't come cheap or easy. The players quickly pushed back, saying they might consider an extension, but only if the right circumstances were there. And get this, they emphatically declared those crucial circumstances did not exist yet. This wasn't a bluff. It was a firm statement that major issues were still on the table, making any short-term delay pointless. The league's offer wasn't seen as a real effort to find common ground. It looked like a desperate move to avoid a work stoppage without giving up anything real. The gap between the two sides was just too massive for a simple 30-day break to fix. The sticking point became crystal clear. How could they agree to an extension without concrete concessions from the league? Players weren't just extending talks to hash out minor details. They wanted major movement on things like 50% of jersey sales, better facilities, and full benefits for motherhood. Without these non-negotiables agreed upon, an extension was just a stalling tactic, meant to pressure them, not actually make progress. This deep mistrust meant the league totally misread the room. They underestimated how resolved the players were for a truly transformative deal. The threat of a lockout was huge, a terrifying idea for players who would lose access to facilities and training, but that didn't stop them. They knew the risks, but they also saw their unique power right then. The work stoppage risk was a strong card they were ready to play, believing short-term pain would bring long-term gains. The feeling was, if the league truly valued its athletes, it would show it with real action, not just temporary offers. Now, Commissioner Kathy Engelbert herself had admitted to past deadline extensions, hinting it was just business as usual. But her tone during the finals, while hopeful, totally missed the massive shift in player mindset. What worked in 2019, when a 60-day extension led to a new deal, wasn't going to cut it now. This wasn't just about extending discussions. It was about totally different demands and a completely changed power dynamic. Engelbert's old experience with extensions actually became a problem, giving her a false sense of security. Adding fuel to the fire, the WNBA senior advisor, Aaron Drake, publicly announced there'd be no new agreement by Friday. He blamed the league for a lack of urgency, famously saying, "It takes two to tango," but the league struggled to find a beat, to find a rhythm, and to find the same sense of urgency. This wasn't just honest, it was an open accusation that the league was dragging its feet, making an extension feel like a delay, not a bridge. The dance partners were totally out of sync, and one side wasn't even showing up for rehearsal. The league quickly fired back, criticizing the Players Association for taking too long to respond to their October 1st proposal. They claimed the union had only just replied on Monday, weeks later, trying to shift the blame. This finger-pointing revealed something worse, an escalating game of childish delays. If one side made the other wait 15 days, the retaliation was 17. This tit-for-tat completely destroyed any good-faith negotiations, turning it into a battle of wills that killed any hope for a quick resolution or a meaningful extension. The league then publicly urged the Players Association to spend less time disseminating public information and more time joining us in constructive engagement across the table. This public argument just screamed a breakdown of trust. Instead of private talks, both sides were weaponizing public statements, trying to sway opinion instead of finding common ground. This public shaming just alienated the players further, reinforcing their belief that the league cared more about appearances than their actual demands. It made it clear the extension was doomed before it was even offered. The main sticking point, the huge wedge driving these sides apart, was salaries and how revenue would be split. Players demanded a direct share of revenue. The league pushed for an uncapped revenue-sharing model tied to league performance. This seemingly small difference actually hit a giant philosophical wall. Players felt the league was intentionally undervaluing them by not tying their pay directly to all the surging value they were creating. The language itself became a weapon, hiding the real financial impact for the athletes. The union vehemently countered, accusing the league of running out the clock and putting lipstick on a pig. They said the league's proposal was just a retread system that isn't tied to any part of the business and intentionally undervalues the players. This wasn't just negotiating, it was an ideological fight about economic justice. The players saw right through it, knowing an uncapped model without real transparencies still put them at a disadvantage. Their unified message was clear: no more half measures or tricky language. Then a huge revelation surfaced, showing just how frustrated the players really were. The fact that the league wanted to call any part of its proposal uncapped was exactly why its leadership, transparency, and accountability were being questioned so much. This was a direct attack on Kathy Engelbert herself. It wasn't just about money, it was about trust. Players felt consistently misled and undervalued by the current administration. This challenge to her leadership was a massive barrier that no 30-day extension could ever hope to get past. And here's where it really clicked, with the league's rising star power. Nafisa Collier kept name-dropping Caitlin Clark in media interviews, all while refusing to meet with Kathy Engelbert for negotiations. That wasn't a coincidence. It was a deliberate strategy. Players were totally leveraging the huge surge of interest and value brought by stars like Clark. They were subtly saying the league's growth was on their backs, not Engelbert's leadership. The message was clear. The Clark era demanded a new financial reality, one Engelbert seemed unwilling to provide. Refusing to negotiate wasn't helping the immediate situation, but it was a calculated move. Nafisa Collier and the players believed they had all the leverage. Alternative leagues like Project B and Unrivaled were offering significantly higher pay and even equity. So the WNBA's exclusivity clause became a huge problem. Why would they sign a deal that limited their earning potential when other options promised 4 to 10 times more money? This external pressure was a massive threat to the WNBA's negotiating position, making the extension offer feel totally unimportant. The players dreamed of a future where they could play in the WNBA, make good money there, and still play in other leagues globally without those exclusivity clauses. But Kathy Engelbert stuck firm on exclusivity, seeing it as vital for the WNBA's brand. This completely opposite vision created an impossible standstill, making any short-term extension pointless. The players weren't just asking for more money, they were demanding complete freedom to maximize their careers. This huge disagreement on exclusivity was the key, leading to the undeniable conclusion these players don't want to sign anything until Kathy Engelbert is gone. This was the real, honest reason why the extension was dead. It wasn't about deadlines, it was a fundamental rejection of the current leadership's vision and how they were negotiating. The players had lost faith. They demanded a new commissioner who would align with their global aspirations and entrepreneurial spirit. They were basically using the threat of a long work stoppage, fueled by their growing collective power and new money streams outside the WNBA, to force Engelbert out. Their strategy was bold: hold out on any agreement until a new leader was installed, someone willing to grant them the flexibility and financial terms Engelbert refused. This was a direct challenge to the commissioner's authority, showing that the path forward needed not just a new deal, but a whole new direction. So, the WNBA's 30-day extension offer, therefore, was never a real solution. It was a band-aid on a gaping wound, failing to address deep-seated issues like pay, revenue share, playing opportunities, and most critically, trust and leadership. Caitlin Clark's unprecedented influence, consciously used by prominent players, just amplified their demands. It made any less than transformational offers feel like an insult. This wasn't just a delay tactic, it was proof that the league fundamentally misunderstood its own athletes' power and vision. As the clock ticked, the WNBA's extension plans had zero chance. The players, emboldened by their leverage and rock solid in their demands, saw right through the temporary measure. They weren't just negotiating a contract, they were demanding a revolution, a complete shift in how the league valued its talent and its future. The vision was clear, the demands non-negotiable, and Kathy Engelbert's extension, missing those core concessions, was destined to fail from the very moment it was proposed. This was the players' ultimate explanation.